G'day guys, David here from the Xylem Zone. Just want to talk to you today about something a lot of people do unconsciously and it can actually stop them getting their own home. And it's called bank shopping. So the reasons why potentially shopping around for the best loan can actually put you in a world of pain and actually stop you from getting your home maybe at all or cost you many, many years. So bank shopping. So what do people do? Of course, we all want to get a good deal. It's part of life. We want to get the best deal. We want to pay the less. We want to shop around and not get ripped off. I hate getting ripped off. But bottom line, when you do it with a loan, there's different things you've got to consider. Now, let's say the first person goes into the bank and they go to Bank One and they have a look through the loan, but they find the interest rate is too high. So then they decide they don't want to go for the loan. Now they've filled out an application because a lot of banks won't give you the information. The first thing you have to do is submit an application. And they automatically put an inquiry on your credit file as soon as you do that. That's their first process. They don't give you another option if you're going directly to the bank. So let's say you went to the second one and your borrowing power was limited. Your income wasn't high enough and they wouldn't lend you enough money to buy the house that you wanted. So then that banks out. The third one you go along to and they're limited on their LVRs and they insist on you having to do 80% and a principal and interest and you don't have a big enough deposit. So now you're stuck there, so that loan won't work. Third application, third inquiry. Now we come down to the fourth one and blanket. This person was just absolutely rude, treated you like a number and didn't care about you, so said, blow that, I'm not going to go for this bank. And you finally get to number five. And number five, I'm a fan of Heritage. They're the People's Bank. And you get down here, they've got the right interest rate. They'll lend you the money. They give you the minimum amount of deposit that suits your circumstances. And then the person's really, really nice as well. So you go, right, happy days, I'm ready to go. Now you think you're ready to go, but guess what has happened? The Heritage Bank, in this case, I'm just using as an example. Let's say they're lovely, but they go and check your credit file. And what do they find? Inquiry, 4 inquiries before you got to them. Now, unfortunately, because of their policy, regardless how lovely they are, their policy says, well, there's been 4 inquiries here and they haven't got a loan, so there must be something wrong. So at that point, you can have your whole loan decline just because you've made too many inquiries because you thought you were looking for the best deal. Big problem. So let's see how you can change this scenario before you start. Now, the first thing you want to do is go and get a copy of your credit file. I think you can go to mycreditfile.com. There's a few different companies that do that now. It should be free if you write a letter. Otherwise, some companies charge to send it to you. But bottom line, you can get a copy of your credit file to see how many inquiries you've had and hopefully to check if there's any defaults. And hopefully there's no defaults there. Because if you've got a default where you haven't paid any bills, you can be out of the game for 5 years, and if you've had bankruptcy, out of the game for 7 years. So you definitely want to get a copy of your credit file before you start, before you even go to the bank to know it's there. Now, personally, step 2 is I always use a broker. Now, the reason I use a broker is I can control the process a bit more. If I go to the broker, I'd say, look, I want you to go and I'm buying this house. I want you to get me the best loan. I talk through the scenarios, and then he goes out and comes back with 4 or 5 options. But I tell him, I don't want you to touch my credit file. I don't want to submit any application before we find the right loan. So he'll still take my data, so he knows what my position is, but he's not going to submit it. And also, he's not going to touch the credit file until we find the right lender. Because also, there's something else you've got to consider. In the last few years, we've taken on the American system, so now you've got also a credit score. Now, if you're someone who doesn't manage your money well, or sometimes gets behind with repayments, makes irregular repayments, has not made payments, and changes your living arrangement frequently or your employment arrangement, every single time you do one of those things, your credit score is dropping. So again, if you do bank shopping, and even if you don't do bank shopping, if you've just been irregular with your repayment history for anything, credit cards, utilities, power bills, anything, a lot of that information is getting shared. If they give you a low score, you can automatically find the right loan and now not get a loan. So guys, really, really important that you do these steps before you start and don't get yourself in a corner. If you do find out that you have a default on your credit file, it's quite a common thing, especially with telco companies and credit cards. You might have moved house, missed a bill, and they've just gone and whacked the default on there. There is some companies that do credit repair, and they'll go out and negotiate on your behalf. If it's your fault, obviously it's going to cost some money, but often they can negotiate with a fee, or they can find out that the service provider didn't do the right thing and get it taken off. Either way, there is an option there. Might cost you some, but if you can, save 5 to 7 years, that's a massive thing. So guys, hopefully that's been useful. The world is changing with credit. You do need it, unless you're that 1% that can pay everything with cash. But most of us that need to go there and get credit for buying a home or buying a business or buying investment, it's really important you understand this process and don't get yourself stuck before you even started. Anyway, David from the Xylem Zone. We're all about educating people, helping you take the right steps so you have a safer journey and create the life you want a lot earlier. Bye for now.